Imagine standing at the top of a tower with glass walls, seeing everything, yet somehow feeling out of reach. Grant Whitaker lives. World, silent, insulated in success. Every detail planned, every moment. People cross his path daily, but few ever get close enough. It's a Saturday, the kind where bounces off high-rises, and the city's pulse is felt in 1,000 subtle ways. A rush, horns, laughter spilling. And from a bakery, an old man humming to himself as he waters begonias on a rooftop. Inside overlooking Central Park, Grant reviews 3 different calendars and comes from across the marble kitchen. Eli, his 12-year-old son, is at the counter, his the edge of a cereal bowl. It's a familiar ritual, one Grant still struggles to understand. Eli's legs, bent at uneven angles, rest in a custom wheelchair. The boy's brown hair is a little too long, curling at the ends, and his gaze lingers on the window. Few pigeons flutter by. Most mornings' conversation is light, careful, like a dance where no one knows the steps. Work today? Eli asks, voice careful, the kind that for danger. Grant looks, realizing once again that he's already late for something. His son's question hangs between them, weighty, important. Not all day. Maybe we could new restaurant tonight. The one with the jazz band. You like music, right? Eli does so right away. He nods, just a little, and Grant thinks of all the things he's never found the words to say. Across the city, in a small third from Harlem, Keisha Montgomery eyes her sneakers with practiced urgency. She nudges a sleepy 9-year-old girl, her daughter Tia, out of bed and hums a gospel melody on her breath. To Keisha, a spark survives despite rent notices on the fridge, the endless ache in her feet. Come on, baby, I need you to get up, or the must both over, she whispers. Tia grins, her head buried in it. Eventually she stirs, stretching her arms overhead. By 7, Keisha's out, heading for school drop-off before her first shift at the Silver Note, a midtown jazz restaurant that caters to the wealthy, the ambitious, and those chasing a taste of something. Back in the week, Grant tries to focus on the day's deals, but his mind keeps drifting. Eli, the pressure expected, his desperate need to fix what he doesn't understand. His ex-wife says he's too distant, too logical, too much the CEO, not in. He wonders if she's right. Eli watches the city, imagining it would feel like to run, to dance, to simply walk out the door without the world seeing only his chair. He knows. His father, people love things they can't change. Protectively, awkwardly, but not always well. Midday, Keisha stands behind the restaurant's bar polishing glasses, thinking about her mother's arthritis, Tia's field trip, and the feeling of invisible walls. She's worked at the Silver Note for almost 2 years, long and recognize the regulars, references, the tone of their voices when they talk to her versus talk to her manager. Today, she senses something will be different. Maybe it's just nerves, maybe it's hope. She shakes it off, forcing a practiced smile. Lunch crowd filters in. Of the bustle, Grant stares at an email but reads none of the words. Eli's music class was cancelled again. His therapy is behind schedule. He tells himself he's doing everything right. Every appointment kept, every bill paid. But deep down, he can't ignore a gnawing truth. Money can't buy the things Eli wants most. Each life moving to its own rhythm. The paths set to intersect in a place neither could have predicted, on a night that should have been ordinary, but never would be. A low, golden light fills the Silver Note. Evening settles in. The city outside moves fast, but inside, everything slows. Tables dressed in crisp linen, cutlery shining, the mute of conversation beneath the anticipation of jazz. The scent of garlic and rosemary floats from the kitchen, mixing with the promise of something unforgettable, though for most tonight will fade like any other memory. Grant Whitaker almost cancels. There's always a reason. Call, a board member's complaint. Eli's reluctance to leave the comfort of home, but for reasons he can't explain, he pushes through. Maybe it's guilt, maybe empty calendar slot his assistant flagged, a window of fatherhood forced over obligation. Eli sits beside him in the back seat of the town car, fingers fidgeting with a loose thread on his jacket. He watches the world flash by, storefronts and street lamps blurring into streaks of color. There's a nervous anticipation in his stomach. Restaurant, people stare, and chairs are never quite right. He doesn't complain. Night out, Grant, as if reading from a script he barely remembers. Eli shrugs, but there's the hint of when the car slows in front of the Silver Note. The building is old brick and stained glass, the kind of place that promises elegance and stories, not always in that order. Inside, Keisha feels the ache in her lower back as she checks the reservation book. Her manager, Carl, signals her with a nod. VIPs on table 12, a familiar routine. New faces tonight, Carl whispers, barely moving his lips. Name's Whitaker. Be sharp. Keisha smooths and gathers herself. She's seen all kinds through these doors. The generous tippers, the ones who don't eye, the couples who fight over filet mignon. It's all theatre. If you look closely, the masks slip. She spots them away. Grant's tailored suit, Eli's careful posture. There's a hush as she approaches, and she feels it. Invisible barrier wealth creates, a wall you learn to work around but never truly cross. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the Silver Note. I'm Keisha. I'll be taking care of you tonight. Eli's eyes dart to her, then away. Grant offers every controlled. We have a reservation. Whitaker, this way, settle in. Grant reviews the menu, asking about wine pairings if someone used to being heard. Eli runs his for the table, listening to the jazz warming up in the corner, wandering melody that drifts. Keisha notices the boy's stillness, the way he studies the musicians, how his smile grows when he thinks no one's looking. She leans down, voice soft. You like music? Eli nods bright for a moment. I used to play piano, kind of, before. The word lingers, unspoken question. Dinner is a lesson in restraint. Grant answers emails between bites, trying not to seem distracted but failing. He asks Eli about school, the usual topics. Eli answers in short, practiced bursts, careful not to break the invisible rules of their shared discomfort. Keisha moves through the room with practiced grace, refilling glasses, laughing with other tables, always returning to check on Eli. She brings a small off menu, a personal favorite. Best thing we have, she says with a wink. Eli grins. Thank you. The evening rolls on. The jazz picks up, note over each other, drawing a crowd on the edge of the dance floor. Couples sway, laughing above the music, and Keisha pauses, moment to watch. There's a longing in her eyes, a memory of nights she danced before life demanded too much. She glances back at Eli. You ever dance? She asks, voice low, as if a secret. Eli blushes, shaking his head. Grant looks surprised by the question, almost bristling, but says nothing. Doesn't have to be fancy, Keisha smiles. Sometimes the best dancers are the ones who feel the beat, even if they never leave their seat. Grant's phone buzzes. He frowns, silencing it. For a moment, a crack in the routine. Later, as Diz arrives, Eli leans toward Keisha, emboldened by her warmth. You really think so? About dancers? Keisha watches to meet his eyes. I know so. Everyone's got to find yours. Grant watches, something stirring inside, a feeling he hasn't let himself indulge in years. All evening, he truly sees his son, the hope in his eyes, the way he lights up under kindness. The band strikes up a slow tune, and Keisha leans over, offering her Eli, not to pull him up, but to let him. She bobs in place, humming, inviting him to guide the tempo. Eli giggles, then moves it just slightly, affecting her small sways. Around them, the world softens. Grant way. Something inside him shifts, a fault line, just a crack, but enough for the light to slip. Starts with a question that feels almost out of place, woven into the hum of the jazz band and the low chinner. Eli's still thinking about Keisha's words. Everyone's just got to find yours, when she returns to the table with a smile that feels real, not painted on the others in the room. Hey, him so that ignoring the curious glances from nearby tables. You want something? Eli's hand still, uncertain, but his eyes search hers. Grant glances up, tense. He's used to people tipped around his son, never through him. Keisha leans in, lowering her voice like she's sharing a secret. Anne's got a tradition. Sometimes someone special gets to pick the next beat. Nope, but I think you'd great job. Eli's face lights, his shoulders cautious hope flickering. Me? Keisha nods. Yeah, if you're up for it, just let me win the song from the cue for the next tune. You pick. Fast, slow, whatever you feel. Full of energy at the table. Grant tries to hide his surprise, caught between pride and protective. He wants to object, to ask if this is some pity gesture, but something about Keisha stops it. She isn't performing, she's inviting. The song ends. Keisha winks, gestures toward the band, and Eli, nervous, heart-thumping, raises a hand. The musicians, grinning, look to him. What'll it be, champ? The saxophonist asks, leaning in. Eli's voice is small but something slow but happy. The bandleader nods, launching into a playful, gentle swing. Keisha stands by Eli, swaying in time with the music, hand palm up, letting his fingers twitch, a little shaky, and she follows his motions, spinning slowly, letting him call the rhythm with each movement. A few diners notice, smiles breaking out, but nobody interrupts. It's dance like no other. No steps to memorize, just a connection, honest and unfiltered. For a moment, Eli is disabled, or the billionaire's son. He's just a boy, sharing the spotlight with someone who sees him, not his share. Grant's watching, equal parts amazed and settled. He sees the transformation on Eli's face, joy he hasn't seen in years, freedom he never thought possible. The music lifts something, a memory of the boy Eli was before divorce and business swallowed every other tables, clapping softly. Keisha spins, letting Eli nod as if he's orchestrating the entire floor. The room feels lighter, the lines between guest and staff, rich and working class, blurred by the universal language of music. When the song ends, there's a gentle applause, nothing showy, just appreciation. Eli beams, cheeks flushed. Keisha kneels again, whispering, "Told you, you've got your own rhythm." Grant swallows hind words. He catches Keisha's eye, searching for some explanation, but she just gives a small, knowing smile. She doesn't need thanks or credit. This was always about seeing the person, not the situation. Afterward, Grant pays the check with a heavy tip, but his gratitude is awkward. Finished. "Thank you for," he falters, unsure. Keisha shrugs, slipping the job. And so does Eli. That what happens never just about dinner service. It was fair and simple. Permission lead, even when the world expects you to follow. As Grant helps Eli he feels different, less cold. Eli chatters about music, and the whole way home, Grant listens, really listens, and wonders a long while might be possible if he stopped living glass. He takes a moment to exchange, a shared song, a flicker of genuine connection to unravel what's been towned for years. The night after the dance, each Grant, Eli, and Keisha home, changed in ways they can't yet, and in the days that follow, wide. Monday comes too soon. Grant sits at his desk overlooking the city, the chaos of his office muffled behind soundproof glass. His assistants move like shadows, careful not to sign, calls to return, deals to close. But Grant's mind keeps drifting back to the silver note, Eli's face as he led that dance. The world seemed to pause for. He replays the moment, a pattern. He tries to tell himself it was nothing, just a kind gesture, but he can't shake it. This time, he questions what he's built. All the appointments, the privilege, the rules that keep him at a distance from his own son. He cancels his next call. He scrolls through photos on his phone, most of them staged cards and posed vacations. There's almost nothing candid of Eli, nothing that looks like joy. Grant feels an ache he can't buy his way. At school, Eli feels lighter, the memory of the dance clinging to him like music long after the last note. He tells his aide about the jazz, the way she spun with, how everyone watched, but he laughed. He draws the dance in colored pencil, him at the center, music swirling around. For a moment, he doesn't mind being seen, but not everyone understands. In gym class, a boy asks if he was the show, people's party. Eli then shrugs it off. The song. You ever get to do that? The boy, unsure what to say. Later, Eli's therapist notices a new spark. She asks about it, and he quiet, proud smile. I led the dance. That night, when tucks him in these days, Eli surprises him with a question. Can we go back there sometime? With the music? Grant hesitates, old fears returning. What if he can't give Eli what he needs? What if he already missed his chance? We'll see, he manages. But inside, something stubborn begins to grow, maybe, or the beginning of. The silver note is busier than usual. News travels quickly in her world, through whispers between tables. In the back of the staff lounge, the story spreads. The billionaire's kid, the dance, the tip that made Carl smell for an hour. Some workers are skeptical. You trying to get adopted, Keish? One asks, half joking, half jealous. She laughs it off, but it stings. Her job is always more than tips or She remembers Eli's eyes, how alive he looked, the trust he gave her in a world rarely offers it. Later she finds a thank you note in her locker. It's a regular who'd watched the dance from across the room. You make this place feel like family. She wrote into her to a worn photo of her own daughter. This time in a while, she wonders what it would feel like to truly be seen beyond the uniform, the mask. Dance becomes a legend at the Silver Note. Staff try their own versions, inviting shy guest request songs, letting kids spin in the aisles. Some managers frown, worried about liability. Others see tips rise and say nothing. One night, expect from the manager, "Thank you for letting your son bring joy to our place. You're always welcome back." The note is short, but it lands heavily. Grant prints it, lays it on his desk, and stares at it for a long time. All ripples are a tabloid journalist, always on the angle, catches wind of the billionaire's mysterious dinner. Grainy, Eli low of the dance floor, Keisha guiding, Grant watching from the shadows. A headline drafts itself, hungry for clicks. Billionaire's son finds joy in Harlem. Who's the woman who changed? Grant sees the email just as he's heading home for the night. His heart thuds. He isn't ready for the world to step in a fragile new beginning. But the world is coming anyway. Silence that comes after a storm, where everything looks the same but feels irreversibly changed. As whispers about the dance circulate, Grant and Keisha return to old places in their minds, places that grow. The past begins to bleed into the present, quietly rewriting the neither of them wanted to tell. Grant finds himself city lights across the ceiling. Restaurant, Eli's face alight, Keisha's hand guiding him, haunts. It's not just the threat of publicity that unsettles him, but the realization that this is the first time remember where Eli looks truly happy. He wonders why it took a stranger out this side of his son. Old memories surface. Grant, as a young man, hungry for success, grinding through all-nighters at MIT. He was always the outlier, the kid from a rundown Ohio town, too ambitious, too scared to let anyone close. His mother used to say, "Don't let them see you struggle, Grant. Rich people don't forgive He learned how to outwork, outthink, outlast. It worked. Eli was born. The doctors echoed gunshots, palsy, limited mobility, unknown future. Grant's logic failed him. He tried to control, to fix, to buy, say, but nothing worked. The more he tried, the more distant Eli became, until their home felt less like a family and more like Austin's. His marriage collapsed under the pressure. His ex-wife accused him of using work to avoid the hard parts. "You're building but you can't build a bridge to your own son." She left with sharp words and a gentleness to Eli that Grant envied. Now, staring at the shadows in his room, Grant wonders if it's too late to change. The dance, so small, so ordinary, won't leave him alone. He wants to believe something different is possible, even if he doesn't. In a much smaller apartment across the city, Keisha sits at the edge of her bed, counting tips from her shift. The numbers are never quite enough, but she's learned to stretch hope further than check. Tia sleeps curled up with a battered copy of the toll booth, soft snores filling the silence. Keisha's past is always close. The Bronx, the eldest of four, raised by a mother who worked 2 jobs and still found time. Her father vanished when she was 9, leaving behind a battered guitar he never kept. Keisha learned early that the world wasn't fair, but music could make it bearable. Just for a while. She met Tia's father at a picnic. He had a smile that could light up and a temper darker than else. By the time Keisha realized she was safer alone, she already had a baby on the and a mother who needed an advice. She's been working ever since, out joy where she can. In Tia's laughter, in on Sunday, in the secret satisfaction of knowing she's no one's victim. Still, she dreams of something more. Maybe going back to school, maybe opening her own cafe, maybe just where she doesn't worry about the bills. The night of the dance lingers. She replays Eli's face, the trust in his eyes, the way Grant looked at them both, like he was seeing a new world and wasn't sure whether to step into it. Keisha knows that feeling. She spent her whole life standing on the threshold. As the tabloid story threatens to, Grant's PR team goes into overdrive. "We can spin this," they say. "Highlight your philanthropy, your support for diversity." The words taste like ash. Grant finds himself staring at Keisha's number on a business card he asked for but expected to use. He wants to call her, to warn her, maybe to apologize. He dials, hangs up again. This time she answers, her voice wary but warm. It's Grant Whitaker, awkwardness choking the air. "I wanted to let you know. There might be some publicity. I didn't mean for it to." She cuts it gently. "My whole life's been public. This story is about your son dancing. I'm okay with that. He deserves to be seen. So do you. For a moment, Grant is silent. The old reflex, protect, control, fix, but he lets it go. Thank you, he manages, voice rough, for everything. Keisha's laughter floats through the phone. It was just a dance, Miss Whitaker. But sometimes, a little music changes everything. Cliffhanger. As they hang up, both something new stirring. A wild, tentative hope. But outside, the city is already buzzing, and the next headline is only hours away. Across town, Herft's one time before publishing. The photo of Keisha and Eli is set to early light. Eli sits at his window, humming a tune only he knows, dreaming of another night on the dance floor. Most Eli Whitaker's world is designed by adults, structured, guarded, and relentlessly polite. He is used to being spoken about, not spoken. At school, teachers talk over ticking boxes. At home, his father's often careful, weighted by fear and the unspoken need to protect. But the night of the dance and the days after, something begins to shift. People start listening, not just. The morning after goes live. Eli wakes to find his phone buzzing with messages. A recurrence, thinking something is wrong, but then he hears the laughter and the sound of Grant's voice, less clipped than usual. When he rolls into the living room, Grant is on the phone with a journalist, his intense but controlled. Eli catches a phrase, "My son's privacy comes first," and recognizes the world's interest reaching into their home. The anger, the confusion, but instead, Grant kneels by his chair. "There's something you should know," as softer than usual. Talking at a restaurant, they want to hear from you, but you don't have to say it unless you want to. Eli thinks at Keisha's words, "Everyone's just yours." He wonders if maybe, just maybe, this is his chance. Later that day, Eli's school holds a special assembly about inclusion. He listens as the principal talks about the importance of child's voice be heard. It sounds good, but Eli's always known the gap between words and actions. When the principal invites him up to the microphone, his hands sweating, stomach tight, he almost says no. But he's a teacher nod, and a few classmates wave, and something Keisha turns to him. The best dancers are the ones who never leave their seat. Eli wheels up, the auditorium silent. He steadies his breath, glancing at his knees. The microphone squeaks. "I don't like being of attention," he begins, "but the other night the music. I got to not just follow. I want to do that more, not just a restaurant where we all want to be seen, not for what, but for what we love. That's all." A hush falls, then tentative applause. Eli looks up, surprised to see classmates and teachers clapping. It feels different from any applause before, less like pity, more like respect. News of the speech spreads. Grant reads about it in the paper, or Eli mentions it at home. For once, he doesn't press. He simply asks what he do to celebrate. "I want to go back," Eli says, "to the music, with Keisha." Grant hesitates, not for business reasons, but for personal ones. He realizes he's not asked Eli once before. Not really. He nods. "We'll go." That night, he writes an email to the Silver Note, asking for a reservation, and for Keisha. Keisha, meanwhile, reads the news on table. Her co-workers gathered around. Some congratulate, others roll their eyes at the fuss. She feels exposed, unsure if this attention is a blessing or a burden. Then her manager calls her to the office. "You've got a special request," he says, sliding her email. "They want you working Eli's table." Keisha smiles, nerves tangled. She texts her mom to watch Tia that night. She wants to make sure she's there for Eli, not as a story, but as herself. Evening of the witches comes with anticipation. At school, kids ask Eli about the dance, about the music. At the Silver Note, staff prep for it that feels different, charged, expectant. And for Grant, the anxiety of letting go, of not controlling every moment, settles in like a knot, even as he tries to believe in new beginnings. Eli, first time in his life, feels like the world is waiting for him, not the other way around. The question now is, what will he do? It's the kind of evening New York seems to invent, a humid, shimmering dusk, city lights starting to flicker, traffic inching past. The Silver Note is alive with sound, laughter at the bar, silverware of the jazz band slipping through the air like perfume. But tonight, at a table by the stage, the ordinary falls away. Grant and Eli arrive early. Grant wears weak signal to himself to anyone else. Eli is restless, eyes darting from table to band to front door. There's nervousness, something brighter underneath, anticipation. Keisha greets them with a smile, no longer forced. She kneels near Eli, not pity, of respect for his perspective. "Hey, Maestro, glad to see you back. Want to pick tonight's special?" Eli grins. "Mac and cheese?" "Not officially," Keisha winks. "But for you there will be." Grant watches easy exchange, something unfreezing inside. He's spent a lifetime engineering solutions, for realizing some answers are as simple as asked the right way. As the night unfolds, the boundaries between billionaire, waitress, and child begin to blur. Keisha chats with Eli about music, letting him steer the conversation. She listens, really listens, with no agenda but connection. Eli's up about his love of old cartoons and even asks Keisha, tired working so much. She laughs, saying, "Some nights, but you make it easier." Grant, at first awkward, is himself drawn in. When Keisha brings up to Tia, Grant suggests time so the kids can meet. Clumsy offer, but genuine. Keisha's surprised, but she nods. Tia would love that. She thinks only billionaires eat with names she can't pronounce together. Not as employer and staff or as strangers in common, but as people. Keisha tells a story about a customer who tried to pay for his meal with a magic trick. Eli offers his joke about walking into a bakery. Grant shares an thing from college about spilling coffee, famous investor. The wall inch by inch. Other diners glance over, curious. A couple at the net whispers, recognizing Grant. "Aren't cruel tonight." There's something magnetic about the table. The mix of laughter, ease, and the sense everyone belongs. One older woman's Keisha near the bar. "You here before, but tonight you're glowing. What's your secret?" Keisha smiles, thinking of Eli. Let people be themselves. It's ages. Later, Keisha checks her phone on break. Tia says she wants to learn piano. Eli, "Can we make that happen?" Keisha smiles, already imagining the two kids playing. Their differences making room for new friendship. Grant, meanwhile, lingers by the stage as Eli wheels over song. The saxophonist kneels down, grinning. "Kid, you're the boss." Grant finds himself thanking Keisha, fumbling over, I didn't realize how much this would mean. To him, to me." Keisha shrugs, not just honest. Sometimes the smallest the biggest gifts. That's the relation he never expected. Not a business deal, just people showing perfect and real. Out into the night, Eli, "Can Tia come next?" And Keisha too, for what? Not calculating outcomes, just saying yes. But as they the sidewalk, a photographer's flash goes off. The headline questions swirl online about the unlikely trio, about its race and what really brought them together. Some stories are kind, others are not. Inside, Keisha watches them go, wondering if what started as a simple dance might be the beginning of something none of them expected. A real connection, fragile, and change never asks permission. Arranging the furniture of your life before you realize it. For Grant, Keisha, and Eli, the warmth of connection brings its own shadow, questions, scrutiny, the complicated web of expectations. The city, always watching, starts to notice the cracks in the old story. Back at his office, Grant feels the air shift. A board member corners him in the elevator, smiling in a way that isn't friendly. "Press has been busy, Grant. That thing with your son and the waitress. You want us to draft a statement?" Grant forces a polite grin. "We're not making a statement, it was just dinner." But the murmurs continue. Board meeting, the questions sharpen. Investors are anxious. Will the story make Grant look weak? Will it expose too much? Empathy is great, but don't lose focus, someone warns. Grant feels the old closing in. The more he lets Eli into his life, the more vulnerable he feels, just to tabloids, but to his own doubts. He tries to focus, but emails pile up. Journalists, interviews, invitations from charities, even hate mail. One message stands: "A moment of kindness cost your reputation." But the words linger. At home, he's distracted, irritable. Eli senses it, pulling back, unsure he did something. That's the part that hurts Grant most, the way fear undo all the progress of a single night. At the Silver Note, the mood has changed. Some guests are friendlier, leaving bigger tips, making small talk, but others glare, refusing service from the woman in the story. Her Manager Carl calls her into his office. You're getting attention. Some of it's good for business. People don't want to see you here. There've been complaints. Keisha stiffens her chest. What do you want me to do, Carl? He sighs, softer than usual. Be careful. I'm on your side. But this eats its own, especially when they start standing out. The staff splits. Some rally around her, proud. Others mutter about her. Drama. She tries to rise above it, but the walls feel closer now, and the job she once loved becomes something she has to defend. At home, she shields Tia from the headlines, but the little girl hears the whispers at school and comes home asking, "Why do people care who you danced with?" Keisha hugs her tight, saying like things they don't understand. For Eli, the attention is a strange new world. Teachers treat him differently. Classmates ask for selfies. Some kids are cruel, joking about his famous dance. He tries to laugh along, but times it hurts. Makes everything bigger. He sees comments about even Keisha. The worst ones make him want to hide. But something stubborn has taken root. When Grant asks if he wants to avoid the restaurant, Eli shakes his head. I want to go back. Keisha treats me like I'm made of glass. Grant can't answer for a moment. He realizes his own fear of public opinion, of losing control, was the prison for both of them. The press won't let go. One ride the silver note, hoping for Grant's driver warns him about unwanted attention. Eli asks, why do people care so much about who your friends are? Keisha walks head high. She's not ashamed kindness she shows, but as she passes, her phone vibrates. It's an anonymous message. No, your place. Her hands shake, but her jaw sets. Sleep. He sits by Eli's bed, listening to his son's soft. The city's noise drifts from the windows. Sirens laugh, music somewhere far away. He remembers Keisha's words, the hope in Eli's eyes, pain of doing nothing. He knows the cost of change is rising, but for the first time, he wonders if this of staying the same is even higher. It does funny things to people. For some, it hardens resolve. It exposes every flaw. As days turn into weeks, both Grant and Keisha find themselves forced to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves, about each other, about the world that refuses to let their story. The world inside Grant Whitaker's penthouse is quieter now. Eli keeps to his room more, sketching quietly or losing himself in music. Grant, a creeping bus he thought they'd left behind. At work, the board grows restless. There's talk of votes, rumors of a shake-up. Grant's longtime friend and CFO David corners him after a meeting. You're distracted, voice low. You used to know business, everything else. Grant can't meet his eyes. Maybe I shouldn't have. David sighs, almost in sympathy. You built this company because you were relentless. Don't lose that now. But Grant can't unsee the look on Eli's face at the silver note. He knows what real success is supposed to look like. And suddenly, it feels hollow compared to the warmth of that dance, that laughter, the hope he saw in his son. He sits in his office late at night, reviewing numbers that don't much anymore. He feels farther away than ever. Keisha's world tightens too. The support she felt is fraying. Request server stops talking to her, quiet by the attention, the change it's brought. Even at home, her mother worries, aloud about making waves and what that might cost. Her shifts are tense. Carl pulls her to lay low for a bit. She bristles at the suggestion, but understands. When you grow up where Keisha did, you learn when to stand out and when to disappear. But the irony of going back to being invisible feels like defeat. Tia asks again about Eli, wanting to know if they can all be friends, wanting to understand why people seem upset by something so simple as a dance. Keisha doesn't, but she hugs Tia and whispers, we keep dancing, baby, no matter who's what. One night, Grant and Keisha cross paths outside the silver note. It's late. Keisha is locking up. Grant is lingering in the shadows. Dropped Eli at his mom's for the weekend. The air is thick with summer, the hum of neon and distant traffic. For a moment, neither says anything. Grant speaks. I'm sorry about all this attention. Never meant for it to spiral like this. Keisha leans against the wall, exhausted but unbroken. It's not your fault. People see what they want to see. I just wanted Eli to have a moment, didn't the world to care. They stand in silence, sharing the strange intimacy of two people fighting battles, lap at the edges. Do you regret it? Grant asks, barely above a whisper. Keisha's eyes glimmer in the streetlight. No, regret always I stayed quiet. Not this. Grant nods, a weight, lifting, replaced by something braver. I don't know how to fix this. For Eli, for you, even for myself. Keisha smile. You don't fix things. You live through them. You choose what comes next. Back at home, Eli finds a letter slit door from a classmate who knew him before. You looked happy in that. I wish I could be that brave. Eli smiles, taping it to his wall. He thinks about how sometimes it's just showing up, even when people stare. The city moves on, always hungry for a new but for Grant, Keisha, and Eli, the cracks in the foundation can't be ignored. They've seen what's possible, they've paid a price, and now, standing at the edge of what comes next, they have to decide. Will they let the cracks widen, or will they try to build something from the ruins? The decision and the risk is theirs. Sometimes life draws a land, and you realize you can't go back. Not to comfort, not to hiding behind what's safe. For Grant, Keisha, and Eli, the crisis comes sudden. Every choice matters. It's a Wednesday evening. One of those sticky city air feels electric. Grant is wrapping up a call with the West Coast team, thinking of little else but bed and silence, when his phone buzzes with an unfamiliar number. For a moment, he almost ignores it. He sees the hospital prefix, and his heart slams against his ribs. Mr. Whitaker, this is Dr. Bender. Children's. Eli's had a seizure. He's stable now, but we'd like you to come in. The world narrows, vision, sharp and merciless. Grant grabs his key, barely remembering to lock the door. Outside is a blur of neon and fear. All the things he thought mattered, meetings, headlines, even the company, fall away with every heartbeat. At the Silver Note, Keisha is just closing her last table when her phone rings. It's Tia's school nurse, worried. She's having trouble. Maybe Keisha drops racing through the city, fighting panic with muscle memory. 2 ambulances rush through the same night. One Eli, one carrying Tia. By strange fate, both children's beds apart in the same pediatric. Grant sits beside Eli's bed, helpless. Every breath he takes a fragile The doctor Eli will recover, but his body is exhausted. First time, Grant lets himself cry, not from fear, weight of all the moments he's missed. Down the hall, Keisha clings to Tia's hand, soothing her through the worst of it, promising her, Mama's right here. Tia's breathing stabilizes, her fingers tangled in Keisha's sleeve. Sometime after midnight, Grant and Keisha cross paths in the hallway, drained and raw, with nothing left to hide behind. They sit side by side on a battered room couch, silent at first. Then Keisha reaches over, squeezing Grant's hand. We're still here, she whispers. That's enough. Grant leans into the comfort, letting himself feel what a lifetime hiding. His gratitude for this woman drags on, but something shifts. When the sun rises, the world hasn't ended. Eli is resting, Tia is sleeping, and for Grant and Keisha, clarity dawns. Grant calls his office and cancels every meeting. My son comes first. That's not negotiable. The reaction is swift, anger, disbelief, then a grudging respect from those who never dared or fortune. Keisha makes a choice. I'm not apologizing for being who I am. If this job can't handle me standing up my kid for kindness, then I'll find one that can. Carl sighs, but then her eyes makes him see her, not as an employee, but as a person with boundaries, pride and fire. Later, in the hospital's playroom, Eli and Tia meet for there's no awkwardness, just 2 kids who've been through storms, the simplest things. They trade stories about favorite songs, cartoons, and what they want to be when they grow up. For a moment, the world outside fades. There's only music, the hush of the hospital, and a fragile new friendship stronger with oak. Every story shared. As Grant and Keisha watch their children together, something unspoken passes. Between them, maybe, or the one. They know side won't magically change. Headlines, money, power, prejudice will keep. But in this room, right now, something new is possible. The turning point isn't a grand gesture. It's in the to keep showing up, to choose connection over convenience, love over fear, and everything will be different, even if no one else is it yet. The crisis fades, but its mark lingers. Grant, Keisha, Eli, and Tia emerge from their trials, not just shaken, but altered, carrying new resolve, new wounds, and the cautious hope that change might reach further of them imagined. Eli and Tia return to school, their friendship sparking curiosity. Talk, where before Eli's wheelchair and Tia's asthma set them apart, now their laughter draws others in. On the playground, Eli is no longer just the billionaire's son. He's the boy who made a room for people dance. Cartoon, the kid who made it cool to be different. Tia's optimism and jokes are a magnet for shy kids and misfits. For the first time, both children feel alone. Their teachers notice. Eli's art is displayed in the hallway. Sketches of music notes swirling into cityscapes. Students linger, asking him about the stories behind them. Tia invites her classmates to sing with her at lunch. A small revolution begins to ripple through the school. At the Silver Note, Keisha walks with her head high, cold shoulders and the occasional whispered judgment, but something else is happening. New regulars request her section, wanting to meet the lady from the story. She's invited to join the restaurant's new community committee, helping design events for kids with disabilities and working mothers. Some nights, she still hears the doubts, hers and those of the people around her. But when she sees a child's face light up as they're handed a microphone, or when an exhausted mom thanks her for a moment of kindness, Keisha remembers why she keeps showing up. She meets Una and suggests an initiative, a monthly family music night, with all tips going to local families in need. Her ideas aren't just hers, they're celebrated. Grant's board is still uneasy, but his priorities spark a change no one expects. A rival tries to use his public distraction as leverage. His response is simple. If empathy is bad for business, I'll build something better. He spends more time with Eli, even inviting Keisha and Tia over for weekend meals. He listens, truly listens, to his son's thoughts and dreams. He finds himself learning from Keisha's candor, her unfiltered strength, her refusal to back down. He realizes how much he's missed by confusing power with presence. He attends a fundraiser for children with disabilities. The mayor's office reaches out, asking Grant to advise on inclusion policies. The ripple has become a wave, moving outwards, shaping lives and minds far beyond one restaurant, one family. The story of the dance and what finds new life online. Teachers and business owners share their own small acts of inclusion. A bakery that teens with Down syndrome, a barbershop hosts free cuts for children's needs. He begins to feel a little less divided, a little more honest. Not everyone is pleased, angry letters, calls for boycotts, but the positive voices grow louder. Keisha is featured in a local magazine. Eli's drawing ends up on a city mural. One evening, during a city event at the Silver Note, a young girl in a wheelchair asks Keisha if she can pick the music. Keisha nods, smiling, and glares at Eli. He beams and offers the girl his conductor's hand, just as Keisha once did. As the music swells and laughter fills the Grant of the room, watching his son, no longer behind glass but a new, wider world. Still, outside, cameras flash and some voices continue to doubt. The fight is over. The ripples of kindness, courage are now impossible to ignore. No script survives reality, not when life demands more than lines and cues. Grant, Keisha and Eli, the roles handed to them by circumstance, money, race and tradition, begin to crumble. The old ways of surviving, silence, distance, compliance, no longer fit. They each find themselves honesty and to defiance that's the start of something truer. Grant's a packed ballroom at a Hull fundraising gala, his tux feeling like armor and spotlight burning hot. The room's tidy speech about giving, another story of corporate largesse. But as he looks at Eli and Keisha, oh, expectant, proud, Grant's old words catch in his throat. He goes, script. I spent most of my life thinking I had to choose between success and love, between protecting my family and be seen. But my son taught me you don't need to hide who you are or who you love, just to fit in someone else's story. He glances at Eli, who gives a shy smile, and then at Keisha, whose eyes are shining. The best investments I've made aren't in stocks or buildings. They're in people, in moments of courage, in risking. I hope you'll join me in building a world where no one's story gets rewritten for someone else's comfort. There's a beat of stunned silence, then applause, tentative at first, but growing. Note, Keisha gets called to the office after a guest complains of attitude when she's for making a racist joke. Ever cautious, tries to soothe her. Just let it go, Keisha. You know how these people are. Keisha doesn't swallow it. Letting it go. If this place can't back When I do, then maybe it's not where I belong. She stands, expecting her hands to shake, but they don't. Carl, caught off guard, promises to review the policy. Keisha's voice, calm, strong, echoes through the break room, giving other. She texts her mother, telling her she stood up for herself and others. The reply is a simple, proud, "That's my girl. Never let them write your story for you." Eli's school holds a show. In years past, he sat in the crowd, clapping for others. This year, he asks if he can play piano and draw live, projecting his sketches on the wall as he plays. The principal hesitates. No one's done, but Eli is insistent, and his teacher Keisha's, "Why not?" On the night of the show, Eli's hands tremble, but the music steadies him. As his fingers press the keys, he sketches a city skyline full of color, children of every shape and need, dancing together beneath the lights. The applause is a classmate with autism asks if Eli can try painting. Eli nods, feeling his circle grow. Of defiance invites new challenges. Grant receives a thinly veiled threat from a rival, warning that sentiment makes you weak. Keisha's hours are cut, and she wonders if she's being pushed out. Eli finds himself the subject of online bullying, even as he's celebrated. Still, none regret breaking the script, because for the first time, their own. Being seen comes with a cost. For all the applause of choice, a crack that lets both light and danger in. This is the sharp. Her old wounds threaten to bleed through. She faces the consequences living with their heart. The boardroom feels colder than ever. After his gala speech, Grant is summoned to a door meeting. Faces around the table are tense. His rivals smell blood. "We admire your passion, Grant," the chairman begins, and raiseth, "but the company's stability depends on predictability, not controversy." Someone else adds, "You're free to support any cause you like, but if your actions bottom line," Grant sits tall, "if you want to remove me, do it to my face, but you'll be remembered for what you stood or what you stood against." There's a long silence. A few board members look away, uncomfortable. He knows he's risking everything he's built, but he's no longer of losing what kept him empty. He walks out, not knowing if he'll be CEO by the end of the week, but he's finally being the father Eli deserves. Keisha gets her schedule for the next month. Her hours slashed to the bare minimum, weekends off the books, the best shifts given to others. Carl won't rise. Money gets tighter, thinner. She debates calling her sister for a loan, but pride holds her back. Tia, sensing stress, tries to cheer her up, painting her little bravery awards and taping them on the fridge. One evening, Keisha sits on her stoop, bills in hand, anger and fear swirl. She wonders if she should have just smiled more. The thought of Eli's joy, of her growing confidence, tells her she made the right choice, even if the wishes her for it. An email rings to speak at a local college about it won't pay much, but it's a start. Someone is watching, and maybe doors are opening she hasn't yet imagined. At school, Eli, not all attention is good. Anonymous comments online mock his art and his chair. A few classmates whisper about him, thinking he's better than. He feels exposed, the urge to disappear stronger than ever. After school, he tells Grant he wants to quit art club, maybe skip the next family music night. Grant listens, then does something new. He doesn't try to fix it. He just sits beside Eli, offering quiet presence. That night, Keisha calls Eli, inviting him over homemade mac and cheese. "Sometimes the best way to fight mean voices is with good music, good company," she says. Eli hesitates, then agrees. He's learning that doesn't mean never feeling scared. It means letting others help carry the fear. Despite setback, the friendship between Grant, Keisha, Eli and Tia grows stronger. Their little community becomes a refuge from the world's judgments, a space where difference is ordinary, kindness expected, and laughter louder than gossip. One night, after music and laughter have faded, Grant and Keisha linger at the window, city lights blinking. "What if this is as good as it gets?" wonders aloud. Keisha smiles, exhausted and daunted. "Then we hold on to it, and when the world pushes back, we push back harder, together." Below, the city buzzes with stories and secrets, but in this room, vulnerability has become armor. For each of them, the price is real, but so is the freedom. Legacy isn't just what you leave behind, it's the story you choose to tell while you're here. After a season of battles, and Grant and Keisha both face what does it really mean to change a life, and whose life is it after all? It's in his lawyer's office, a view of the city stretched beneath them. The old will, thick and impersonal, lists trusts, companies, and charitable foundations. Grant listens, then puts a hand up, stopping. I want something, he says. Eli needs another business. He needs freedom, opportunity, and people who see him for who he is. The lawyer nods, quietly surprised. Grant outlines a new plan. A scholarship for Eli's name, specifically for children with disabilities and aspiring artists. A music and village kids dedicated to Keisha Montgomery and her daughter. A simple request that his future not be guarded by fear, but used to open doors for those the world too often ignores. When the lawyer asks if he's sure, Grant's yes. This is the legacy I want. Keisha's invitation to speak at the local college turns into something bigger. A story of standing with a boy most people saw only as fragile, as viral. Soon she's fielding requests to speak at parent groups, to help train staff in inclusive workplaces, to write an article about dignity from the ground up. She hesitated first. Imposter syndrome bites. Who am I to give advice? But every doubts. She thinks of Tia's drawings on the fridge, of Eli's laughter, of Grant's growing humility. She realizes her story matters, not because it's true. She dreams tentatively of starting her own community cafe as single moms and kids, a place where everyone gets a seat at the table. She tells her mother and is met with tears of pride and the softest, "It's time, baby." Eli thrives. He wins a city award for a mural painted with other students. Its theme, "Every voice counts." Tia starts piano lessons, stubborn, practicing at Keisha's kitchen with Eli on. They spend weekends together, times the silver note, more often playing board games, making new traditions. Replaces the silences that used to swallow their nights. Grant finds himself helping with dishes, learning the rhythms of an ordinary life he'd always want. One evening, Grant and Keisha sit on the porch bed. Grant's voice is hesitant. "I used to think legacy was just about money, but I was building walls, not bridges. You helped me see that." Keisha looks at him, her expression We all build walls, times just to survive, but it's the who help us down that matter most. He reaches for hand, grateful and unsteady. "What if we try building something together?" She squeezes his hand back. "I think we already..." As summer turns to fall, the world outside keeps moving. New headlines, new battles, new doubts. But in every homes, there is a sense of purpose, of something worth protecting. Neither nor Keisha know exactly what the future will bring. But their legacy isn't just measured in dollars or awards, but in the warmth of small rooms, in second chances, and in months that started it all. There's a freedom that comes after a kind of hope that doesn't erase the scars, but wears them proudly. For Grant, Keisha, Eli, and Tia, life is still complicated. Still, a road ahead feels wider, possibilities more real because of everything they've rebuilt together. It's a Saturday morning that smells like pancakes and possibility. The Whitaker and Montgomery families gather in Keisha's tiny son, Eli helping Tia measure flour, Grant reading the comics aloud in a voice that makes both kids. There's a comfort here, messy and unglamorous. Comfort born not of perfect days, but of ordinary, hard-won trust. They talk about plans. Keisha's cafe is now more than a dream, a business plan scribbled on napkins, support from neighbors, even a small Grant Foundation. Eli wants to organize a citywide art show for kids of all abilities, and Tia is determined to play a duet with him at the opening. Grant talks about stepping back from daily company options, hiring a CEO with lived experience of disability advocacy. It's all uncertain, and no one pretends otherwise. But the fear that used to choke every new idea has loosened, replaced by laughter, the gentle rhythm of shared lives. A few weeks later, Keisha stands outside a vacant storefront in Harlem, off the dusty windows. Her mother and Tia, Grant and Eli join them, Eli craning his neck. Keisha breathes deep, tinged with hope and nerves. She imagines the tables, the music, the chatter of people who were never meant to be where else. For a moment, she doubts again. Can she really do? She feels Tia's hand in hers, Grant's presence at her back. "We'll help." Grant says, simple and certain. All of us. They share a laugh. Then keys change hands and suddenly real. The open promise easy travel, but it offers new ground. They're ready to walk it together. Eli stands at the front of his school audit, microphone shaking in his hand. Kids and fill the seats for the city's first inclusive arts festival. His eye now a reality. He clears his throat, voice thin but brave. When I was scared to be seen, I thought I was alone, but a friend who danced with. Now I want everyone to have that chance. If you're scared, that's okay. Find your song, find your people. Don't let anyone make you smaller than you are. Applause erupts, messy, joyful, and real. Tia races on Eli's hand. Together they bow, grinning at the world they helped create. Choices and chances. Keisha's Cafe Atlee. The first customer is a single dad with a son who uses a walker. They are guided by name, not pity. Grant's time brings his board of directors to a music night. He watches as moved by Eli's art, by the stories Keisha and her staff share. Tia becomes unofficial piano teacher, leading impromptu sing-along. They make mistakes, failed grant applications, and over chores, and in that space, something honest grows. One evening, after a long day, Grant and Keisha sit on the cafe's stoop, watching their children race wheelchairs and bikes down the street bright against the city's dusk. Grant leans over. You ever think what comes next? Keisha smiles, eyes reflecting the neon and stars. Every day, and I'm not afraid of the answer. In the distance, drifts out of an open window. There is no final destination, just this, shared burdens, and a dance that continues, step by step. There are endings that shout and endings that linger. A breath, a glance, the gentle echo of a song. In the soft hush, meaning lives in the smallest gestures, the dances no one else sees. This is how Grant, Keisha, Eli, and Tia come to understand legacy, not as something loud or world-changing, but as the accumulation of intentional kindness. It's late, the city washed in blue and gold. The cafe is closed, but a few lights friends. Grant sweeps the floor while Keisha counts. Tips, her mother humming softly in the kitchen. Eli and Tia sit at the piano, quieting a lullaby. It is easy, with the sound of belonging. Keisha glances over, nodding toward the kids. Don't even need an audience anymore, do they? Grant shakes a small, awed smile on his lips. They just need each other. Outside, rain starts to fall soft against the windows. Tia pulls Eli onto the small, empty dance floor, careful and sure. No spotlights, no expectations. Just the two of them, moving as best they can. Eli leads, Tia follows, each learning the other's. Keisha lights. The shadows stretch and merge, and for a moment, it feels as though the world has slowed to let them catch up. They stand side by side, leaning against the counter. Grant speaks quickly, his voice bare. I used to believe happiness was something you chased, something you bought. But it's here, isn't it? In the mess, in the music. Keisha laughs. Sound and bright. It's in letting yourself be known, in showing up even when it's hard. She places her hand on his, both of them watching the kids, hers, his, now a kind of expected. Action is wordless, intimate, no declarations needed. The hurt, the joy, they hold it without apology. As midnight creeps close, the music dwindles, but Eli and Tia keep swaying. The dance is slow, sometimes clumsy, always honest. There's no applause, no cameras, the memory of every moment that them here. Keisha wipes a tear from her, not out of sadness, but from the strange, sweet ache of seeing her daughter loved and seen, of seeing herself reflected in this found family. Grant feels something lift inside him as he never thought he'd earn. He is no longer defined or what he fears losing, by who he's let in and who he's learned to trust. The world outside rushes on, headlines fade, money comes and goes, and strangers still argue over what really happened. But here, in this circle of light and music, the real story endures. It lives in the silent understanding between friends, the laughter shared over burnt toast, in a child's determined steps across its floor, meant for someone else. It's not grand, it's not, but it is enough. And every so often, as the city sleeps, you can hear the faintest lullaby, the rain, quiet dance, promising that even darkness, there is always a way forward.